Mayor Cody over the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carter.
Here.
Macer.
Here.
Riley.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Sofa.
Here.
Stoops.
Here.
Wilson.
Here. All right, any amendments for the agenda? If not, I'll take the motion.
The motion to adopt the agenda is presented.
Support.
Macer.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Sofa.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Martyr.
Yes.
Okay, first up, Mr. Bender, we have a presentation from you.
Yes.
All right, so Matt and I are here just to kind of go through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund project plan, and the public hearing is a requirement of the state statute in order to qualify for the funding. So Matt worked on the project plan. He's going to go through a lot of the details of it. We'll touch on the components, the project proposed components, and then the cost to water users, and then kind of next steps. So I'll let Matt kind of discuss the details. Oh, and sorry, I should mention, we'll take questions at the end too. That's also a requirement. So from the council and also from the public, if you have questions, we'll take those at the end.
Yep. So, proposed project for your water system improvements basically consists of 5 different components. The first one of those, probably the most significant of them, is replacement of water mains on Roberts and Lowish Streets. That's approximately 1,300 feet of water mains. So current water mains are approximately 4 inches diameter, about 80 years old and made of cast iron. All 3 of those factors mean that they are very old and will likely be deteriorating in the near future, and may no longer be able to distribute water to customers if they aren't replaced in the near future. New water mains would be replaced with 8-inch PVC pipe, much newer, much more reliable. Second component is adding what are called an automatic transfer switch, or ATS, to each of the 3 well pumps for the city system. And basically what ATSs are they allow, in the event of a power failure, they allow for the power source to be immediately transferred to the generator. And so to kind of compare with what the city currently has is it's basically only a portable transfer switch, which means that if a power failure were to happen, city staff have to manually go out to each of those well pumps and transfer the power, and that means that there's a time delay between that power outage and the restoration of that power, which in turn means that people may be temporarily without water service. Whereas with the addition of ATSs, in the event of a power failure, people will always be able to have access to their water supply. So next 3 components are somewhat, well, they're basically also a replacement of deteriorating parts of the water system. So as I said before, the city system consists of 3 well pumps that supply water to the city. Those are also starting to reach the end of their useful life. They were installed between 1999 and 2002. And with them reaching the end of their lives their useful lives once again, if they're not replaced soon, there's a possibility that they would not be able to run, also hindering the system's ability to supply water to customers. Fourth component is replacement of filtration media at the city's water treatment plant. So I guess a bit of background on that. So city's water treatment plant basically consists of a filtration system designed to remove arsenic from the water. And over time, filtration systems tend to foul and lose their, which means, minerals and particulate matter tend to collect at the filters, and that inhibits their ability to remove arsenic and other pollutants from the water. So the treatment plant was originally constructed in 2006, and the filter media has not been replaced since then. And so this project would seek to replace that media and ensure that the water is pure for customers. Final component is replacement. So there are 435 customers for the city's water system, and each customer has their own water service meter, which allows for the city to keep track of their water usage. Those are also starting to get old and deteriorate, and again, if they are not replaced soon, there's a high likelihood that those would start to fail, and that would cause the city to be unable to keep track of water usage and bill customers fairly for their water usage. So next, be going into costs associated with this project. As you can see, it's a total of approximately $1.4 million. So for those infrastructure improvements themselves that I previously described, all those items are above the line listed as subtotal in the table, and as can be seen, that totals to approximately $1.1 million. For project cost estimates, we always also add in engineering contingency fees, which are always included as part of these types of projects. Those added in with that subtotal comes out to $1.4 million. So in terms of how this would be financed, so with a 20-year loan with 1.875% interest, common interest rate for this type of loan, because of the interest, the city would owe a total of $1.72 million. Over the course of that 20-year period, that $1.72 million translates to approximately $85,600 per year. And when that's divided evenly among all 435 customers, that translates to approximately $17 per month over those 20 years. Now, one thing that's important to note here is that these numbers assume that the city were to not get any principal forgiveness or grants for this project, and if the city were to be able to get those numbers would actually drop somewhat depending on the amount the state were to give.
Can I just interject?
Yes.
So this is a really great year to go after the DW SRF project funding, because the state has kind of an unprecedented amount of grant dollars out there with the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed, and also with the there was a supplemental water bill that was passed at the State House legislature in Lansing that took some of the unallocated state's ARPA money and transferred it to the SRF program specifically to help disadvantaged communities with water and wastewater infrastructure. So this year and next year, the state has a lot more in grant money, because usually the SRF, State Revolving Fund, is a revolving loan fund. They don't usually have a lot of grant money to give away. Some years they do, but this year they have a lot more. They have like 4 times as much as they've ever had for total grant funding. So one of the things that's required for the project plan is to put the increase per customer per month, assuming it's all going to be loan, because the state develops how much each community is gonna get as grant after the entire, application process. So they come up with a draft project funding list in September and they finalize it in October, just before the federal government and the state, budget starts in, October. So the city will find out probably in September sometime when that draft list is, available, how much, what percentage, if it's gonna be 20% or if it's gonna be 40% or even higher, of that total $1.4 million will be grant. So then the rate increase per user will go down proportionately. So I just wanted to clarify that this is a really great year to do that, and that's actually why Gary from our office wanted to help you guys get this in this year, so you can kind of, grab that money while it's available. Because for a little while there, the state wasn't sure if that supplemental bill was gonna go through for this coming fiscal year, or for next year. And they did do half of it for this year, and then the next half for next year. So tried to get you guys in before everybody else realized that that grant money was available, so. Right?
This project would be on schedule for quarter 4.5 of 2023. I kind of included this table in the presentation to give you an idea of some of the milestones that would be happening prior to start of the project. So now I can go through social and economic impacts.
Yeah, I just want to note that, like I mentioned, the draft project plan priority list would be out in the fall, with the final out in October, thereabouts. And then you go through design after that. So there's a bit of a process, and you don't actually close on the loan until the design is complete, you've collected bids, and then you close on the loan. So you're looking at like a loan closing next September, with construction starting after that. So that's kind of next steps.
All right, so as part of these project plans, we're supposed to anticipate any potential environmental impacts from this, and we have not anticipated any, and that is because of the fact that all the improvements would be happening either within city water treatment facilities, public facilities, or else within road right-of-ways. And contrast to that, we would really only be expecting environmental impacts if any part of this project were going to be happening outside of road right-of-ways, which it isn't for this. So not anticipating any problems there. Social impacts. It is true that the user rates might go up somewhat following as a result of pursuing this project, but there are some pretty substantial positive social impacts that would happen as a result of this project. So one of them is improving the reliability of the system, particularly for those sewer customers on Lowe's and Robert Streets. Improve the city's ability to track water usage. And finally, help ensure that the water system is able to treat water adequately and basically that the water is always safe for users to consume. So that basically touches on the main points of the project plan. Here to take any questions.
I have a few. When we initially started this, we're approaching.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, I'll try to speak up. Okay.
Please state your name too, council member.
My name's Larry Wilson.
Okay.
When we initially talked to Gary on this, the percentages that were tossed around at that time were probably 75% to 25%. What is the, I guess I'm asking a question you may not be able to answer, but what is your opinion that percent or what it might be?
For grant?
Yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately, we don't know the final answer until Eagle at the state develops the final project priority list. But we do know the total amount of funding that they have this year. I think it was 600 or 800 million dollars. And then we also know that the state is prioritizing the grant portion of that to the disadvantaged
And
communities.
is that rating that we got, I think was 14?
Yeah.
Which, I think initially we weren't gonna do it this year, but when we came in at 14, that sort of was an incentive to put this through this year.
Right.
Because it was a more chance of getting a principal forgiveness.
Correct.
Correct?
That's correct, yep. So I'd be hard pressed to wager how much percentage, but it's looking like upwards of 40 to 75%, which is really unprecedented for this program.
Well, the more the better for us.
Yeah, and I do want to just emphasize that once the project priority list is out, if it's not where you were hoping it would be, you can always say, oh, we're not going to take the loan. However, then you won't reap the benefits of doing the improvement projects that are necessary, so.
Okay, and then just for the edification of the public, I'd like to point out that the $17 a month, and we have quarterly bills, so that would be $51 a quarter, or $204 a year. Total over 20 years would be about $4,080 is what I figured out. Okay, the water line replacement for Robinson Lower Street. Initially, when we talked to Gary, we were at $500,000. I see now it's it's down to 390. It's actually, we're probably talking more than just the replacement of the line from 4 to 6, the water line. So, because I'm sure there'll be some disruption to the street itself, plus drainage probably would have to be addressed somewhat in that. So, I guess my question is, if that quote come in higher, which I think it would be, can we prioritize some of these things where, in order to do that, and have to, if it went over budget, and maybe lower some of, or not do some of the other? Though I know they're all important, but that is also important because it's been there a long time. It's 4-inch and it's not, doesn't need upgraded. I think you would agree with that, Bart.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay,
you can
so-
always take scope out.
Oh,
You can't add scope to it very easily.
yeah, okay. Okay, I guess I've asked 2 questions in there I've got answered. If there is no principal forgiveness, or if the forgiveness is too low, where we think the expenditure the city would have to do would be too much of a hardship on the user, because everything has to be self-sustained in that part. Can we reject it and then postpone it to another year, or can we where's the point that we would say it's a go or no go? I guess is my question.
Yeah, so the state issues their final project priority list, which will list each project, its score ranking list in order. It'll list the total project amount and then how much of that is principal forgiveness. And if it ends up being more loan than you're expected or you're hoping, anticipating, can budget for, then you can at that point say thanks but no thanks. I will just point out that this year is the best year to try to get that grant money though.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because it is a burden on the residents, but I know all these things on here are very important and actually should be done, but we have to take them into consideration too, because we have currently, I don't know, quite a few people can't pay their water bill now or at hardships. So And I got other questions here, but they were answered in your presentation on some of them that wasn't in here. So I think you've answered most of my questions. And apparently that's all I have. Okay.
Councilman Jason Sofa, how many other municipalities are we competing with for this? I mean, is there a ton of people out there right now, and how are we looking as far as scores?
There are a lot. So for the drinking water system, the state actually issued a really draft scoring list based on the intent to apply before the full project plans were done. And Gary and I looked at that list, and he thought that you guys scored high enough on there with the total amount of dollars that the state has to give out. We looked at because they had all the project totals, and we, definitely think you'll be funded. And the question at this point is just how much is it going to be principal forgiveness? 50%, 70%, more,
We're good with the loan, it's just the principal.
It shows here
That's right.
132.
132 municipalities?
Yeah, that's what it shows here.
And I do know some of them have decided not to submit the full project plan, and so they're either gonna defer a year or just not go after it, but there's probably at least 100.
And we're number 14.
Well, I mean,
We're number 14.
But as much as you said is in the fund and they're gonna split it, it seems like there's some money to go around.
Yes, definitely. This is the most amount of grant that the state's ever had to give out by a lot.
It sounds like we could almost give everybody some forgiveness.
Yes,
With
and
100 and some.
so there are stipulations on some of the federal money that it has to only go to disadvantaged communities, which, and that's a calculation that takes into account existing debt, your existing water rates, how many customers there are, things like that. So you already are on that list of disadvantaged communities, and so some of that grant money can only go to the communities such as yourself, which is a much smaller list.
It's even better for us.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoops, my question was the water line replacement. You get it at 390,000. Is that also involve the repairs of the road, the drainage, the landscaping and everything else? It seems
Yes.
a little slow.
It so you'd have to add, for total project costs, you'd add a portion of that engineering and contingency to that, plus a portion of the, general conditions. So it probably is closer to that $500,000 number that Gary mentioned. But yes, it will include replacement of the pipe to the bigger pipe, and then whatever portion of the road, I don't know exactly what side of the road that water main is, if it's right in the middle, or if it's on one
I
of the
would
lanes.
anticipate when during excavating, you're going to destroy what's left of the
The whole
road.
road.
They're
Yeah.
not in great shape, so once you
Yeah,
start
so
doing that work there.
that's included in the cost. They'll dig up the road,
It
replace all
seems
the.
low, but is that some of that engineering money is actually is for that?
It's project cost for that,
Okay.
yes. And, the way we show it is we kind of split each of these items into the general conditions, because that's the way the contractor is
Well,
gonna
because
bid
that
it.
engineering, the water line replacement is about the only thing I see there that looks like it's really gonna need engineering, right? Everything else is just replacing equipment.
Right, that's right. Yeah, there might be a little bit of electrical engineering for the generator automatic transfer switch, but yeah, most of what will prepare for plans
So
and
most of that
specifications.
200,000 will be going towards.
That road, yep.
I just want to make comment, we didn't officially really open this up for public hearing.
Well, yeah, but we're still,
So-
right now, we're still in the presentation
Oh,
point,
okay.
just taking
All right.
questions from them.
And
Go over in
afterwards-
public hearing.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions from the city council?
Yeah, I have one. Eric Shatter, councilperson. When we replaced the arsenic media, is it the exact same thing as what we had before? Is it better now?
They do have a couple new options. They have like green sand and other things, but in general, the technology hasn't changed that much in the past 3 years.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I,
What do they use for that?
It's a pressure filter. I believe it's sand and anthracite.
They got highfalutin water softener.
Well, I mean, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, different media,
Different chemical, but it basically, the arsenic precipitates out and bonds to the.
I understand that, I just wonder what the actual chemicals are that are in there, do you know, or is it?
Oh, it's usually like a potassium permanganate.
That's what I read there.
Is there anybody else with any questions?
Answer most of mine.
I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Support. Riley,
Yes.
Schneider,
yes.
Sofa,
Yes.
Stoops,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Mazer.
Yes.
All right, at this time, anybody in our audience want to ask any questions, comments?
Just a water line replacement on Lois and Robert because of the new subdivision going in?
No, it's because the old lines that are there, they're 4-inch cast iron mains that, you know, give a couple more good freeze and thaw cycles, you know, or some water hammer could very likely break.
And just the quality of water within that area.
They're 80 years old also.
I just wondered if it had anything to do with the new
No.
subdivision.
And-
State your name.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kevin Mazer?
Thank you. And I just want to point out that 4-inch mains are no longer allowed under the regulations, the code. They all have to be 8-inch or larger to provide adequate fire flow. So that's why they're being upsized, because they won't permit it.
That'll be better for the fire department, definitely, if they better go down that one,
Unless the new 8-inch are connecting to old 4-inch.
Piece by piece, right?
Rodney Mazer. Are there any other 4-inch mains in town?
No.
Those are the only ones left?
Is there any more comments, questions? All right, then I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Schneider,
Yes.
Sofa,
Yes.
Stoops,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Mazer,
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
All right, this time I'd like to put out here the resolution adopting the final project plan for the water system improvements and design and authorize project representative. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the final project plan by resolution for the system improvements and designated and authorized project.
Support.
Sofa,
Yes.
Stoops,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Mazer,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
All right, well, I'd like to thank you both for coming out and your presentation and the information. That's all I have. Eric?
I have nothing.
Larry?
No, I think you answered all my questions, so.
Okay.
I was gonna
No,
give now,
sure.
just give them.
We don't have to appoint a
Part of the
representative?
part of,
He's already been appointed?
It's in the resolution.
It's in this, okay,
I
thank
didn't
you.
read it. I really typed it.
That would be it, thanks.
Jason?
I know it.
no, I mean, I know a lot of people may be a little worried about water bills going up, things like that, to cover this, but hopefully that forgiveness will offset that, and we're not talking about, you know, even as much as we are here, so, great. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.